All right, it's now time for our next panel. We can put that up. What excites and concerns airline commercial leaders? So, hello, Ricky. Just take a seat. You can sit here. Hi, Onur. Take a seat there. Hello. Hi. Hi, Heike. Great. So welcome, everybody. Now, a note that on your agenda, Sophie Deckers from easyJet was supposed to be on the panel, but is unwell. Melissa, thank you for joining us, especially literally at the last minute and flying in this morning to be with us. So we're very happy to have you and everybody welcome. I'd like to start with this question. We are hearing on the airline side that there is fluctuating demand, a lot of different challenges associated with that. Governments are trying to restrict airlines' ability to operate in certain countries. So how are, from the airlines on the panel, how are you managing this very turbulent environment? Melissa, you've got the mic. You want to start us off?
Yeah, sure. Well, there's a couple of ways. So right now with the easyJet network, the only place where we actually have any policy restrictions right now is the Tel Aviv market. So that, and in that situation, due to the commercial demand, we've suspended flying through winter, and we'll continue to evaluate it. But what we did from a capacity standpoint is we redeployed the capacity, and because of the sector length in the Tel Aviv route, our actual capacity is up because we filled it in with shorter sector flying. But the question in general about consumer demand and how to deal with government policies, I think from our perspective, is really having a diverse network in Europe. So for us, it allows us to pivot quickly, and it also, we're not exposed, heavily exposed to any one particular area. So, for instance, half of our flying is out of the UK, and the other half is in Europe. We have a variety of city, domestic, beach, and then longer sector non-European flying. So when restrictions come about, when demand changes, we're able to pivot a bit more. So, COVID, of course, being the extreme, when there were the heavy government restrictions for international flying, we shifted a lot of it to domestic routes. The other thing that we have that helps us with shifting consumer demand is destination bases. And so most of our flying is base flying, where it goes in and out, and so a lot of the demand has to be based in the outbound, and you need thicker flying. And so what the destination bases allow us to do is, if we do see increases in demand, we can have thinner frequency in those routes and capitalize on that demand. So, the key thing for us really is the diversity of our network.
Okay, thanks. Heike?
Yeah, eventually I'd like to add to that. One of the things that we really have to make sure is that we are flexible, that we keep flexible, as what we've seen right now is that there is a shift in different customer segments. That also means that there is a shift in demand in terms of what kind of destinations are in focus, what's the frequencies about that. And I believe the times are over that we just say we have a winter and a summer schedule, and we have a firm network, but rather be flexible in adjusting that also throughout the year. Make sure that you plan that according to the needs of the respective segments. And as Swiss, we are part of the Lufthansa Group, and therefore I believe we are quite fortunate to have different hubs, different network systems, but they are all connected. So therefore we can look at these things more holistically, also jointly, and optimize our network and then act accordingly jointly.
Okay, and Onur, at Pegasus, how are you handling the fluctuating demand, and are there opportunities that you see creating themselves or having to navigate around any government restrictions that may exist that limit your ability to serve markets?
Right. In terms of maximizing capacity, I think the two most important things that we've been focusing on in recent years is to maximizing our utilization. We have a track record of very high utilization, running around 12 and a half hours, 13 hours at the moment, which is pretty high in the airline world. And also, we've been investing heavily on A321s. Given the restrictions in terms of flight permits and slots across most of our network, increasing the fleet body is really helping us in terms of increasing the capacity. Coming to the demands, what we're doing is, although we're a hardcore low-cost airline, we are actually making variations to our model. We call our model as a network low-cost carrier model. So we're running a sort of a hybrid model in the sense that in all aspects, we are actually following the low-cost principles very hardly. So our cost CASK is, for instance, in the world, one of the lowest. However, because of our geography, because we're based in Istanbul, in Turkey, we're also integrating the low-cost model with the transit network. So around 25% of our passenger base in international routes is coming from transit passengers. During difficult times and in terms of managing the seasonality, actually supporting, although the priority is in point-to-point business, that 25% incremental transit business is actually helping us a lot in terms of seasonality and in terms of increasing load factor. So this is something that we've been doing, for instance, different from the other low-cost airlines. So we think every low-cost airline or every airline has its own realities, its own geography, its own conditions, and we need to find the ways to actually innovate the model as required.
Thanks. You know, we know that consumer preferences are changing. There's changing travel patterns. In some areas, business travel has not necessarily recovered to the same level it was before. So I'm just curious, what are you all doing to evolve and adapt your digital shopping experiences and the booking experiences to stay relevant, whether it's changes to the actual digital interfaces or mobile apps or the product mixes you offer, ancillary mixes, or Ricky and Andrew, what you guys are seeing in respectively at Allianz and CarTrawler in terms of how folks are using insurance and car service, rental car.
Sure. Yeah, I'm happy to start,
yeah,
Ricky.
Sure.
Yeah, look, I think we partner with 70 airlines, about 200 different OTAs and travel brands. Many of them, all of them on the stage here, including Ricky as a partner. So I think we get to see unique insight into that. There's definitely 2 or 3 things we're starting to see more and more of. Some are obvious, so mobile is definitely one. And I think for us, thinking about how we utilize technology better. So if you think about the real estate, it's far less. We have to be smarter about, in our instance, the car that we present to the customer in space 1, 2, or 3, for example. On a website, you can present 9 cars, but if you're presenting 3, it's far more important to get that right. So, and we'll talk about it later, I'm sure, but that's where AI and machine learning have allowed us to present the right car at the right price to the right person. And often that's through data that the airline has shared with us. I think the second one for us is loyalty. So we've seen a huge proliferation of what we call attachment rate with loyalty bookings. So that's either on people earning points through car hire or indeed redeeming points. And we've redemption product live with about 10 or 12 airlines at the moment. So loyalty has become more and more important. And I know it's been a topic earlier of discussion as well. And I think the last one for us is, like, we're seeing geographical markets changing. So as an example, inbound into Europe from the Middle East, and particularly from Saudi Arabia, has, grown fourfold in the past couple of years. So we're definitely seeing dynamics in certain market-to-market places. So yeah, like for us, we sit in a really privileged seat to see a lot of the data and the insights. So they're just three that we work hard to get better for our partners.
Yeah, Ricky?
From an Allianz perspective, we've seen a lot of things change over the years. It was travel insurance to travel protection, and now it's a traveling companion. And so what's changed is the expectation from customers to be more than just protected for a cancellation, just to get my money back. They want safety, security, well-being. So it's taking the 400 billion data points we have from all of our partners around the world and making sure that we're messaging to the needs of the customers and messaging to the needs of our partners and aligning with our partners on that brand message. And then that allows us to develop new products. We've got the Elise platform, again, to be that traveling companion and support the travelers wherever they're going around the world, because their needs and expectations are changing.
Heike?
Eventually, to add to what you said, and I absolutely follow that suggestion as well, is that we need to make sure that which are the respective touch points where our customers are, and in which moment do we catch them, and where do we have an offering to them. And it's more about the conversation than with the customer, taking him or her through the whole customer experience in an interactive way, and not just different silos and have different touch points disconnected to each other. So that's certainly some learning that we also had in the past, and that we now try to do is make sure that we are relevant at every single touch point in the right moment of time, to make it relevant for the customer then, and also to have an appropriate offer in place for the very specific segments.
Right. Heike, I want to build on that with the point that actually you raised with me on email, which I really thought was important. We invest a lot in our technologies. We invest a lot in digital products and solutions, and we all know why we're doing that. But you made the point, which I think is so critically important. How do we keep a focus on the human part, on the person who's using it, whether that is the traveler or the employee, and connect the human and digital experiences? So what are you guys doing at Swiss? And I'd like to hear from the other panelists too about this.
That's certainly a topic that I believe is of utmost importance, to really make the connection between the human mind and also the digital solution that we have. On one hand, make sure that all our employees, whenever they are connected to our customers, or also when they do their job, that they do understand how digital can support them in their daily work. Also take away some of the unnecessary work what somebody else could do, meaning AI can support in responding here, but rather than being able to focus on the most relevant things, and therefore connect them there and make sure that nobody's afraid about the digital new world and solutions that are coming up and things that we are investing in, but rather embrace it and make sure that they really see the benefit of it for themselves, for the work. That's on one side, on the employer side. On the other hand, also for the customer, there's certain limitations that we see in terms of digital solutions. At one point, we realized that many of our customers are really aiming for direct control and direct servicing, so do it themselves. But there are certain things that are limited. We are not able to automate or digitalize every single response to the customer. So here we need to make sure that we have a good connection between a digital solution, but then if that doesn't work, have a very good translator, a bridge to the human person. And only then we can make it really a nice experience to our customers. And therefore, I believe the connection between digital and human is something to really look after, because only the combination makes us then successful.
Melissa, Onur, what about at your airlines?
I can add to that. I think it's great to be innovative in the marketplace, but also it gives us the responsibility to go to the customers with sort of mature products, because this is an area where we can always attract the pioneers, but for the follower segment of the passengers or customer base, they will be less willing to try AI or digital experience. To so many people, AI is still something that they don't get their mind around. So, and if we come to the market with immature products, the experience we will offer to them will be very suboptimal, and they might try once or twice and then completely stay away from that. So we need to find a balance between being quick, being innovative, being one of the leaders in innovation, but also to us, to the business owners, to the IT teams, to the ecosystem, it gives us the responsibility to actually go to the marketplace, which will attract not just the pioneers, those who want to try new products, but the bigger mass segment. Be relevant, stay relevant to them, not just offer AI for the sake of offering AI or technology.
Melissa?
Yeah, not much more to add on that. I mean, for us, it's all about, there are people that want to take control, and having the AI is the better way to do it, because they frankly don't want to interact with someone. And if for those people, give them all of that. But everybody, and we've all been in this situation before, where you don't have a standard problem, and you really need to talk to somebody. So if you can get the AI to the point from a customer standpoint where it can quickly identify that, look, I can't help here, and get them to the person right away, that's going to make them a lot happier. And then also, by having more automation, it frees up the time for the people to actually devote the time to working on the special problems.
So I'm just curious, where do you see opportunities that exist to use technology? I'll put it that way. You insert the type of technology you want, but how can we better use technology to drive ancillary revenue?
Well, I mean, the technology, there's a lot of things around it. I mean, we could all probably talk for hours about it. You have, first of all, there's the contextualization, so that you can figure out what I don't think for a variety of reasons, we're never going to get to personalization per se, but the contextualization and using things like identifying different cohorts and what sort of ancillary they would like to make the offers relevant. The technology around better mathematical models, whether it's machine learning or statistical models or whatever, to get better conversion and better overall revenue on your ancillary side. I mean, the sky's probably the limit on a lot of these things.
Does Gen AI or machine learning allow you to be smarter, or is it just same thing, different flavor?
I believe it's a great opportunity, because Gen AI, the possibilities that we have with that to contextualize and also to get a better idea about the specific customer sentiment, and then target an offering towards the customer in very different ways. So it'll help us because what we see nowadays, and certainly also moving into the future, that there are very different segments. It's not as easy as it was in the past, where you had eventually 3, 4, 5 different buckets of customer types. So you have a variety of different customer types, and in order to really grasp the specifics of the different segments and then have a very specified offer at the right time, that really, we need AI for that. So you're not able to do that in a different way, and therefore I believe that will certainly help driving also ancillary revenues.
Okay. Yeah. Ricky, what about Allianz? And Andrew, I'd like to hear from you too, but yeah. Ricky?
At Allianz, we've got a fusion platform where we do personalization, optimization. That's where we have the billions of data points. And when you think about insurance, selling insurance you can do the contextualization, you can make it as personal as you can, but there's nothing more personal than when you have an issue with insurance, that someone has a heart attack or someone dies. It's very different than I just need my money back. So one of the things that we're focused on is making sure that we can pay claims fast. We can also have the need to not have a claim. So we're tracking if there is a delay, and we're reaching out to the customer and saying, hey, you have a payable claim, we're going to pay you. How would you like us to pay you? Because what that allows us to do is to then have the people on the phone, as you were saying, to be empathetic, to be when you don't want to yell, operator, operator, someone's having a heart attack. You know that there's a problem, and they're there, and they're focused on those moments that matter, because there's nothing more personal there. But it's focusing on the customer being where they want to be, being how they want to be serviced, and proactively if possible.
Andrew, what about at CarTrawler? How are you guys using Gen AI there?
Yeah, I think we call ourselves the human travel tech company. So back to your previous question, we kind of balance the human element with the technical piece, and I think Gen AI is a really good example where we've kind of gone on a test and learn journey where we've deployed 6 or 7 different models to try and understand what works best for our customers and for our partners. We've kind of landed on one that's doing all the right things for us. So about 50% of our traffic that contacts us for any query to do with car hire, whether it's changing driver or there's an issue, about 50% of that is through WhatsApp and chat. And typically on the chat side, for simpler queries, we're finding Gen AI is solving about 25% of those queries in the first go. And for the ones that it isn't, what we find is it's giving a really good clue to the agent when they pick up the call that allows them to solve the query much, much quicker. So we're seeing response times a lot better. And I think that's a really important bit. The other bit we're using it for is it scrapes all our traffic, all our voice, all our data, everything that comes in, and it starts to understand issues before they become issues. So as an example, there was a fire in a car park in Luton Airport 18 months ago, something like that. We started to pick that up through the Gen AI and the chat, and we're able to have curated responses ready for people sooner than maybe we ordinarily would have had without the technology.
Are any of you able to use Gen AI to enhance the business intelligence that your departments may have, and use that in turn to improve your efficiency and effectiveness working with other departments, either within your organization or perhaps operational departments? Yeah.
We're working on it, so I don't want to imply that we're there, but I think there is in the commercial space with revenue management network and things like that, I think there's massive efficiency pieces that Gen AI can do. Just a couple of things, and I'm revenue management, and our team, and I know that network, and they get these questions as well. You will have your PR department or your marketing department, you'll get questions that could very easily be solved by someone asking a question to Gen AI, and when they get those questions, they have to stop what they're doing. So, a lot of the work in commercial is very, you need to be very focused, and it loses your train of thought. You have to spend, 10, 15 minutes. So it's not a big task, but it's stopping the flow. So just getting that off their plate is really good. I also think from a decision support standpoint and BI that you can have. I have a lot of my team here today on the laugh, because I always have this vision that when as a revenue management person, when I log in the morning, I have my own personal Gen AI generated page in my system that can tell me everything that's happened over the day, and I quickly know all the tasks that I have to do every morning. Okay, I go look at this report, then I go look at this report, and then I go do this, and I try to find what's relevant. It can pull it out. But the one thing that I think is very important and a big watch out is, really what you're doing is you're democratizing data across the organization. But what you have to remember is, and we have done loads of data democratization, data literacy is as if not more important, because you get people interpreting the data, but they don't know the context, and so it can be problematic. So along with anything, I think with this, people have got to be able to understand what the data is and what it's telling you and what's relevant and what isn't.
I was going to say, and what the data is and what it's not.
Exactly,
Excuse me.
exactly.
Yeah. Heike.
I couldn't agree more with what you said. It's absolutely true. But once you start, then making sure that the ones that make use of the data have a good idea about the input data, then there's a lot more that you can take out. Thinking about network optimization. So there are so many different data points that support you and really getting the best out of your capacity control as such, but also group planning. Here, our colleagues have major challenges right now because there are multiple aspects that need to be acknowledged when you do the crew planning, including, and not only the efficiency part from the airline and the commercial perspective, but also well-being of the crews. So this is certainly also something that we'd like to look into. So, and to get that all together, there's AI also certainly supporting in order to get better there. Prediction in maintenance, super important because that might help us then to eliminate some of the delays or cancellations because we know in advance what might break down or what might have to be done or what kind of tools are needed for a specific aircraft once it's arriving. So there are multiple areas where we believe there's a high potential for optimization, which is definitely needed in the future, as we definitely have to accept within our industry that there's more faster changes coming up, and the simple usage of the tools that we used to have in the past will not be sufficient for that.
Have there been any instances where you've tried something and you realized, oh, we have gone too far? And either the customer's not ready for this or we as a business aren't ready for it?
Well, just a simple answer on that. What we usually do, we start with MVPs, and we start, when it's about customer topics, we start to approach certain customer types. If we realize, for example, in the area of ancillaries, that there is no call for that kind of offering to our customers, then we are able to pull it back and do something differently. So instead of developing something full stretch and then offer it to the marketplace and then being surprised that it's not been taken up from the customer, we'd rather like to take little steps and then see how we evolve from that point.
Mobile, a few years ago, mobile was the buzzword. Now it's, of course, AI. But I'm curious, is mobile the channel where you're placing the most focus on your digital experiences? Yeah. Mobile versus traditional web. Oh.
Yeah,
I think for us, as we see partners evolving, in terms of what booking channel is becoming more popular, we've always had to adapt to mobile more and more. And I think, to my point earlier, it's about understanding the real estate better, working with our partners better to see how we can make it convert better, certainly for car. But it's really interesting also, we as partners share information around what's working and what isn't, and I think that's been a really valuable piece over the past couple of years as mobile has changed, and we're finding more browsing on mobile, conversion on desktop, and people doing a lot of their research on their phones. So it's about adapting to that, putting different content in place, and then sharing that amongst ourselves to try and understand what works and what doesn't.
Yeah.
For us, mobile is definitely the priority. I think this is something we've been saying as the whole sector for several years. And as the capabilities of mobile technology has come to that stage, we can now say, well, for the passengers, for the travel experience, mobile is always with them. So mobile is definitely the most important channel. However, I think airline business has an advantage compared to the other parts of the whole travel experience, as we are the gateway for the passenger, as we are the first for the passenger to be planning. We have the capability, we have the opportunity to actually offer more ancillary products, be with them with our mobile applications throughout the whole journey. But I guess we need to be more innovative and work harder in order to penetrate to our passengers with third-party travel experience and products. I don't think airlines have been successful enough in terms of penetrating with products such as car rental or hotel. So the whole idea of passengers are first booking their flights and then doing their the rest of their journey planning is not turning into a real monetized opportunity for the airlines as much as it could at the moment. So we all need to look at what we are doing wrong at the moment, why we are not really the gateway for the passengers to offer more third-party ancillaries, other travel products to our passengers.
Yeah, and I would say there's no question you have to have a mobile-first approach, whether it's mobile web, mobile app, native app. But what we're doing with that is also taking the data back to one of your previous questions. How are we working with our partners, working within our own company, is we're sharing that data with our partners to say, okay, here's how your customers are behaving differently. And because we are in it, and this is 90% of our business is about data as an insurance company, we're able to deliver that, and it's quickly, easily to our partners in an understandable, consistent manner. And it's gone to the point of where we even have data days with our partners where their marketing teams and our marketing teams get together to make sure that not only are we talking data, but how we can use it together.
There's been a lot of government noise about drip pricing, I'll put that in quotes, and the unbundled business model. And I'm just curious, if there's any impact of this on your airlines, or Andrew or Ricky, if you're seeing it through, at your businesses. There may be good intentions, making sure that the consumer is aware of optional products, but at the same time, it can also feel like hands around the throat. So I'm just curious how you all are responding to this and making it work for you.
I'm jumping at the bit because actually over the last year and a half, I have had to speak to 2 different governments in Europe about pricing, drip pricing and just dynamic pricing in general. And the big thing for me, and I think as an industry, and what I learned in working with these governments is they don't understand our business model. And so I think we as an industry really have to educate them that nobody wants the gotcha fees, and none of us want to do it, and I know we don't have any of those. Everything that's ancillary for us is truly something that is optional. And what we need to help these governments understand is that if they were to rebundle things, the overall ticket prices are going to go up. So we all have a portion of our consumers that all they buy is the ticket. And because we have unbundled things, people are getting lower ticket prices and they have choice than they ever had before. So I think it's, like you said, it's good intentions. I think airlines are an easy political target to pick on. I always, question, we don't, there's a lot of industries with much higher margins that they could go after, but airlines are kind of the sexy ones, and it's an education piece in my opinion.
Okay.
Well, for us, as Swiss, we are positioned as premium network carrier, so therefore it's probably not as relevant as for others. And for us, the aim is really to be as transparent as possible. So whenever we bundle certain or have a pricing that bundles certain elements, we make sure that the customer sees what is in and what is not in. So we always try to do that, but what we also see is, of course, that as you mentioned, in certain areas, we know that there are customer types that want to have the lowest price level, and then we have to make sure that if it's a certain fare, that certain elements are not part of that price, so then they have to add that in addition. So for us, it's really something about transparency and making sure that they see it on the spot, what is really in and what's not in, and what can they potentially then purchase in addition.
Okay. All right. Yeah, Andrew?
Yeah, I think as a concept, it's been there for a long time. We all know the steps on an airline website. We know what to expect next. Generally, there isn't something jumping out that says, oh, what's that? That's new. That's a new product. What is it? I don't understand it. So generally, that flow is there, and it can be 12 to 18 steps, and some of us find it frustrating. But ultimately, you're getting it to pick a menu, an a la carte menu of 18 different items to choose from as a consumer, and that can only be a good thing. Yeah. And the fact that car hire is in the middle of it, we're delighted about. So, it's a good thing. But we talked about it earlier, Melissa. We think that ultimately the consumer will suffer if we do this, and that's the wrong outcome.
Yeah, the research that we have done shows that the majority of consumers, substantial, 2/3 or more depending on the country, find that the unbundled model is something they like. They feel that it gives them more control over where and how they spend their money. If they're doing a day trip from somewhere, let's say Zurich to London, maybe they don't need to check a bag, but having meals included or having lounge included or whatever it is, or being able to add that on is something they value. If they are traveling with their family, being able to craft the experience that meets both the rational and, importantly, emotional needs, great, they can do that. So I agree. I think that the consumer is smarter than governments perhaps give us, I'll put myself in that group, as credit for. We, as you said, we have been using these websites for a long time. Digital travel is not new. I've been an analyst for 24 years. Expedia was doing online transactions in the mid-90s. Alaska Airlines was 1994. This is 30 years old. I think we know how to navigate a website or an app by now and figure out what is and what is not included.
Yeah, I think 100% agree. From a drip pricing, from an insurance perspective, it's illegal. We've not been allowed to do it forever, so right. It's never been an issue. From a bundling perspective, we've seen it come and go over the years, and what we find, very similar to what you're saying, is that customers want to feel in control. They want to feel like they're making the choice. So we've got to make sure that the bundle is the right bundle for them to choose. But too many choices, deer in the headlights. And then you lose all options. It creates inaction. So, we've seen a lot of that within the industry over the years.
Yeah, and I mean, it's finding the right balance between ease and transparency as well, because you know that the more pages that your conversions drop as you bring them more and more pages. So I think and we've give people good contextualized bundles. So a lot of people will choose the package that's right for them, but then give them the choice beyond that. I think that is ultimately what the consumer wants, and as we all feel that when things are bundled, the price is baked in to it. It's not a different deal that you're getting.
Right. So in our last couple of minutes, just thinking about things from the commercial standpoint, where do you see the biggest opportunity in the next 12-ish months? Call it through end of 2025. Andrew, I'll ask you to start and we'll go through.
Yeah, I think we touched on it. I think that whole use, we've been using AI for 8 or 9 years. Melissa was saying she's been using it for longer within easyJet. So I think it's now coupling AI and Gen AI together to present back something more interesting to the consumer. So we've these kind of smart block cross-sell technology that we use, and if we can create a Gen AI aspect to that and curate the content and the offer and the price to the consumer in a better way, a more visual way, I think that's the exciting bit for us. And I also think the customer service piece should and will improve, and I think they're the two most exciting things for us as we work with our partners. And I think also we're in a space where we're sharing information with partners, and that's a really, we all learn from that, which is a good thing.
Onur?
I was going to say customer experience, but you already said that, so I will say ancillaries. For us, it's should be the number one priority going forward in the next 1 or 2 years to maximize revenue per passenger. And I think airlines have gone so far in terms of dynamic pricing, ticket pricing, and network optimization on these aspects, and haven't gone enough in terms of maximizing ancillary revenue yet. We've all focused on more developing new products, introducing new products, and serving customers with new types of bundles, but revenue optimization on ancillaries hasn't really been in our focus. And now many airlines are working on, for instance, ancillary price optimization, but we should have done that years ago, because we are pioneers in dynamic pricing and price optimization, but we cannot say we are ahead of retailers in terms of ancillary pricing. And also we need to innovate new sales models in terms of increasing the penetration of existing ancillary product portfolio. And there is a big opportunity there. We know demand is limited and competition is fierce, and prices will always be difficult to increase. So we know how much we can grow in that area. So the biggest opportunity for us, for airlines, is to actually keep increasing revenue per passenger, and that's only possible through ancillary revenue optimization.
Melissa?
For us, I would say it is merchandising and pricing optimization, which of course fit very closely together. The distribution teams merchandise it and the revenue management price it. So it's on the merchandising side, it's getting really, for us, getting more into bundles. So going from having static bundles to more personal or contextualized bundles, and then how can we price those bundles to maximize revenue? And then on the revenue management front, along with the pricing optimization around bundles, there's a lot that we are working on in terms of, we talked about business intelligence, user interface, but also what can we do to improve our models using so many of the external data sources that are out there, the ability to handle a lot more data at a time, and looking at various different modeling techniques.
Heike?
I would phrase it a little bit differently. If I look back now the last 12, 24 months, it was a bit about test, learn, also educate ourselves in certain areas. And now the next 12, 18 months, it's rather about implementation in many areas. So what I see, on one hand, we have a great app. It has been developed over time, and now there are more and more things happening, so that will be a great experience. On the other hand, with all the data points that we have, we get a good idea about the customer sentiment, and we can target it in a better way. And we will also be able to rather see where do we still have the gaps in the whole customer experience, and then fill the gaps and have a good idea about the prioritization, because we can't do everything at once. So I have a pretty good feeling about that, so what's all happening there, and there's a lot that can get implemented in the next 12 to 18 months.
Great, thanks. Ricky?
Yeah, so I think as an industry, we talked about customer experience, we talked about pricing, we talked about merchandising, bundling, having the technology, but what we need to focus on is also the message to the customer, making it relevant, speaking to the specific customer, not a broad swath. And I think that's going to be the game changer when people can figure out how to do that.
Okay, great. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we have run out of time. Please join me in thanking our panel, Andrew, Onur, Melissa, Heike, and Ricky.